Well, you just have to get past me.
Easy enough. What do we get if we win?
Well, you get to live. It's why I invited you all here. I want a new challenge. You look tough, but are you?
We are talking Bone Breaker. This one is directed by Nicholas Winter, who also wrote this. Now, this is a British slasher movie, and it focuses on a small group of influencers that are getting together to film some type of video to do with fitness. So we have these three YouTubers or some type of social media influencers. We assume that they're YouTubers, but they never really say it. And they are trying to promote some type of, some video and stuff. And then we have the camera guy. It focuses on one particular girl who is just kind of being introduced to these two more experienced ones. And they decide to go into this kind of particular woodland. It's private woodland, which is owned by this woman to film some fitness stuff there. However, this woodland is owned by this woman who is actually some type of serial killer, and she wants to kind of hunt down these anyone who comes into her land basically for sport and in a kind of like a contest because she feels like she's superior to anyone else. And that's pretty much what happens. Now, it isn't really a spoiler because from the very first shot we hear the woman's voice, so we kind of know exactly who it is, even though there's a thinly veiled attempt to just show her feet, so you don't know exactly who it is, but it's revealed more or less about 10 minutes into the movie. So what works, first of all, interesting idea to have obviously a female slasher. Not too many of them, there are a few obviously, but obviously it's always nice to kind of change things up, so to speak. I think the fact that the weapon of choice here is a mallet makes some kind of painful thoughts when you're thinking about, when you're thinking about things like Misery and stuff like that. It's never particularly gory, but nonetheless, that's the hint. The title of the thing here is Bone Breaker, and there are a couple of bones that are broken. I actually found our antagonist quite interesting, the way that it's played, because she's not trying to be particularly scary or menacing, but she's just kind of like this very nonchalant attitude, just like, I just want to kill people just because it's fun and I kind of get a kick out of it, and that's literally it. So even though technically speaking I would say you can definitely class her as a slasher, she's not lurking around trying to be scary and stuff. She's just there and very much kind of blasé about her kind of her motivations and what she's up to, and I just found it an interesting choice and somewhat original. It takes out any real scares, to be fair, but nonetheless, I actually kind of quite appreciated maybe, just a very matter-of-fact slasher, which I found pretty interesting. I thought the setup was quite good as well in regard to having these kind of like these kind of fitness influencers, and we get the impression because they're all quite sporty, they're quite competitive, and it would have made for a nice dynamic. However, some of these people never actually meet when they end up going there, so it almost seems a little bit of a weird waste of a setup, to be honest. This movie has literally no plot. It has no plot. It has an interesting setup, but then it's just like running around in the woods, being chased by this middle-aged woman who seems like she could be quite easily overpowered, if I'm honest. There are a couple of, there's some random hitchhiker that's there as well, and there's quite often she's unarmed, this antagonist, and you wonder why people don't try and kind of take the fight to her, so to speak, and there's just nothing to this film. I mean, I don't think the acting is necessarily bad or anything like that, but there's just literally no plot here, and, with a film called Bone Breaker, you would expect there to be some quite wincing scenes of torture or gore, and although we do see her hit people with mallet a couple of times. There's one fairly good effect shot with a broken leg, but there's not really a lot there, to be honest. I mean, it's a neat idea, but it's just not a lot done with it. I mean, maybe because of budget and stuff like that. Thankfully, the movie's not particularly long because there's just not enough that goes on, and it's a weird thing because we have these. yeah, we have our main protagonist who really doesn't actually meet up with some of the other kind of like the characters. She's more or less on her own. And yeah, like I said, that their setup just seems kind of wasted at that point. Overall, it's a very forgettable movie with maybe some interesting ideas, but unfortunately it doesn't become particularly cinematic because of that. Yeah, I think it has squandered some of its kind of potential, like, you know, maybe an interesting kind of villain, and I like the setup, but again, there was not enough done with it. It just seems a little bit of a waste, and there's lots of kind of like illogical things and things that just don't, come on, that doesn't really kind of make sense. And why is, if all these people have gone missing in this particular wood, and how come, you know, there aren't police there? Things like this. I mean, just don't think too much about it, but it's a fairly kind of like, it seems quite a quick production put together with not too much thought on it. But there are some elements that I think do work. So we'll give it a 4 out of 10. Have you seen it? What did you think of it? Leave me a comment and I'll look forward to you next time. Bye for now.